Labour just don't get it, do they? Today, Yvette Cooper stood up in the House of Commons and said this.
Those violent and criminal attacks were not protests, they were not about grievance, they were thuggery, racism and crime. Plenty of people across the country have strong views about crime, about policing, about immigration, asylum, the NHS and more, but they don't pick up bricks and throw them at the police.
But to his credit, James Cleverly was very quick to point out a lot of Labour hypocrisy going on here.
Does she accept that any perception whatsoever of treating the same crimes differently based on the race, religion or community of the perpetrators increases tension rather than reduces it?
Yeah, there you go. He referenced the Labour response to BLM. They took the knee for it, etc. Well, the public are angry, and it's emerged that the taxpayer bill for illegal immigrants alone is billions of pounds a year. And Labour don't really seem to care. I mean, here's Keir Starmer taking literally the opposite stance to what most people want, talking about how, the solution to all of this is to be more progressive.
I am worried about the far right. I'm worried about populism and nationalism and the politics of the easy answer, the snake oil, if you like. And I think it's very important that we have a debate about how we confront that. My own personal view is that through delivery, through showing that there are progressive, democratic answers to the many challenges we face, is the way forward.
Well, hang on a minute. It's progressives who flooded the continent with illegal immigrants, isn't it? It's progressives who allowed the ideology of Islamism to take hold. It's progressives who many feel have irreversibly changed an entire continent for the worse forever. And in a second, I'm going to mention what's going on in Germany. You'll see it on your screens there. And, the AfD, well, the latest figures in 2023, according to official statistics in Germany, the number of suspects for crimes rose by 7.3%. 41% of suspects were non-German nationals, which is astonishing, really, isn't it? There were 214,000 violent crimes, and if you have a look at the amount of suspects in that were non-German, it's not easy to understand why they would want to continue with that process as well. But I think these are the ones, for me, that are most sobering. The Germany-wide statistics on sexual violence are absolutely staggering. So an internal study by the German Federal Law Enforcement Agency that was leaked to a Zurich newspaper revealed that asylum seekers have committed 7,000 sexual offences between 2015 and 2023. And it's at this point that I'll remind everybody that our government here and the previous government refused to tell us, the British public or the media, the breakdown of crimes committed by asylum seekers or by nationality, which is quite staggering. But yes, let's have a closer look again at what's happening in Germany. They had a democratic vote where Alternative for Germany party won in the state of Thuringia. The progressive leader there tells every other party to refuse to work with them. That's not democracy. Liberal elites don't like it when people don't vote the right way. What is it about people on the left not wanting to accept democratic votes? Sir Keir Starmer knows a thing or two about that.
It's right that Parliament has the first say. It's right that Parliament has the first say. But if we need to break the impasse, our options must include campaigning for a public vote, and nobody is ruling out Remain as an option.
There we go. Second referendum, wasn't it? And now immigration is the biggest issue for 51% of people in Britain. That's the highest it's ever been. People point out that there's a problem in Britain with Muslim gangs who appear to not want to integrate and already, as well, become violent at a moment's notice. Labour, well, they just think you're an Islamophobe if you point that out, but they can't even tell you what the definition of Islamophobia is.
The Secretary of State, please explain to me and the House what the government's definition of Islamophobia actually is.
A new definition must be given careful consideration so that it comprehensively reflects multiple perspectives and considers potential implications for different communities. And we're actively considering our approach to Islamophobia, including definitions.
Well, people on the left like calling other people extremists, but I do put it to them that if they're the ones ignoring democratic votes and ignoring public opinion and demonising people who oppose them and continuing to push an unbelievably radical agenda, actually maybe they're the extremists. So that was my panel this evening. Our broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone. We have journalist and commentator Benjamin Butterworth and former Chairman of the Conservative Party, Sir Jake Berry, as well. Carol, do you think actually Sir Keir Starmer and all these pro-immigration people on the left are the extremists here?
Say that again, are they what?
The extremists.
Oh, God, yeah. And, what's happening in Germany will happen here, the rise of the far right. Because when mainstream political parties refuse to provide for or listen to the concerns of ordinary people, that's what you get. You get what you've got in Germany right now. And, in Germany right now, since 2015, they have allowed in 3 million immigrants. Remember when Merkel led in 1 million and said, we can do this? Well, they did it. And 3 million people later, they've got rocketing crime rate, their economy is tanked, and the people are angry. And this guy Hock, I was just reading some of the stuff about him today. He goes around doing lots of straight arm movements when he's talking to crowds. One of his motto, there's a motto in Germany, and it says everything for Germany. It's a Nazi motto that was used when the Nazis were in power, and it's actually illegal to say it in Germany. This guy is freely using it on the streets, and he's shouting that about the failure of multiculturalism, protect your children. And the people of Germany are sick of not being listened to on immigration. They're listening to the stuff that you've just read out there. They know it's happening, and they're angry. And the reason I think reform in this country is doing so well is not because it's far right, nowhere close to being far right, but because it's the only party that's listening to people about immigration. Yeah. And Starmer did not say a single word about immigration in his speech last week. Not a single.
All right, just on that, these stats out of Germany are absolutely staggering. And to be honest, it's not difficult to understand why the AfD have done quite well over there. So in 2023, there were 761 gang rapes registered in Germany. That's almost 2 per day. And according to these stats, which again apparently are official stats, 47.5% of the suspects were foreigners. I mean, if you've got a problem with that, you would have a look, Benjamin, wouldn't you? And you think, who's done that in this country? Well, it's the progressives, isn't it? And Keir Starmer wants to ally himself with the progressives. That's surely a mistake.
I mean, I don't think anybody should celebrate what's happened in this German election. And to answer the question of do I think it would happen here, well, Britain is notable on having never had a far-right surge, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But I think there are 2 problems, and one of them is the fact that, this is mainly in East Germany, which is considerably poorer than the West, and I think people having a stagnating quality of life, not having good public services, that is often what drives them to have a problem with this.
And 3 million extra people, of course.
Yeah, at a much faster rate than the UK has had. What I think is the problem is that you have to be careful that if these people coming over, regardless where from, don't assimilate, and it feels like they're sort of imposing another culture, then that is when you have a problem. And I think it is naive to ignore that, because Britain has loads of examples of successful multiculturalism, but the ones where you don't see that are the ones where people that move here don't change.
I think there is a sense, and I get this from talking to people out and about and just living, really, that we are actually at a point where unless something is done now, the tipping point could really be reached when it comes to the idea of multiculturalism and assimilation, all of that stuff. I think there is a sense of urgency, perhaps, now, because things, under your party, to be fair, Jake, went so badly wrong, as you have acknowledged. But Keir Starmer doesn't appear to want to do that, does he? And we are in a situation now where we don't know the amount of crimes that are committed by people who just arrived in this country. We won't be told that, unlike in Germany. And if they're anything like what we're seeing in Germany, then this is an absolutely astonishing figure.
Well, it's astonishing that we don't get told. I actually think there's a real public interest in knowing those figures. Just to look at this in a bit more detail. So, first of all, what I found extraordinary about what happened today is this idea of 2-tier care, 2-tier policing that was pumped out as some sort of conspiracy theory. We were talking about it, we talked about it quite a lot. We had a lot of discussions on this panel about it. Some conspiracy theory over the summer. Now, Parliament has come back today, and James Cleverly, the Shadow Home Secretary, beg your pardon, has come back and said, actually, no, there is evidence that we do have this 2-tier approach by the Labour Party, whether that's Keir Starmer taking the knee or, in fact, Jess Phillips. You showed a clip of it there, of that violent gang who threatened a journalist, slashed their tyres on the car.
How did that sound a pub?
And Jess Phillips said, well, it's fine because they came along to protest against some EDL people. That is a Home Office minister. Her duty is to uphold the King's peace. She has condoned violence on our streets. What has Keir Starmer done about it? Absolutely nothing. She is still in her job. So the first thing is this 2-tier policing, which was a conspiracy theory, now isn't. Parliament's come back and they've said it true. And the second thing is, all politicians, as far as I can tell, Keir Starmer, I think my party did when they were in government, has turned a tin ear to the British people. Over 50% of people now in the UK say that immigration is the issue they are most concerned about. And politics and politicians are putting their fingers in their ears and saying, look, we have to be progressive. That's not what Britain's like. We want to continue with this mass immigration. It needs to stop. The British public does not want it.
What I will also say, and it's a very difficult thing to confront this, right? Well, you know, we don't shy away from this kind of stuff on this show, which is, if you do really want to try to prevent the rise of a serious, hardcore, dangerous far right, the worst thing you can possibly do, I would argue, is ignore millions of people who've got very legitimate concerns about immigration.
Yeah. And what's happened, I think, it happened under the Tories, and it's more so happening under Labour, is that decent people are being made to feel that they're racist for daring to question the amount of numbers coming here. And it's not racist to be worried about uncontrolled immigration. It's not racist to be worried about insecure borders and people that are coming in here unvetted. We don't know who they are. That's not racist, but people are being made to feel that it is. So when a party like Reform comes along and says, you know, we're hearing you, we'll listen to what you say, we will put a stop to this, people immediately jump on it. And Reform are gaining ground now against Labour, right now.
The point is, we are, in this country, creating effectively a city the size of Birmingham every 18 months.
2 cities.
With legal and illegal migrants. Look at Birmingham. How many hospitals does it have? I think it's got 11, actually. There's over 400 GP surgery, there's over 800 primary schools, there's 600 secondary schools, whatever it is. Unless we are building infrastructure at that rate, what does it mean with all these people coming into the country? It means you can't see your GP, you have to wait hours in A&E, your kids can't get in your preferred school. And that is what makes people say, this isn't racist. They say, I cannot access services because the government is letting so many people in and we are failing to build the infrastructure.
Can I just ask something to you, Benjamin? Because it's, you know, we're seeing a lot of this at the moment where people blame, you know, the rise of extremism on, you know, voices on Twitter or prominent political figures or on Nigel Farage or on all of this stuff, all right? And they say they're the problem, they're the problem, they're the problem. But if Keir Starmer does absolutely nothing about illegal immigration or legal immigration, which as it currently stands he's not doing, and in fact as it currently stands he's openly said that he would rather take the quote-unquote progressive approach, which as far as I can tell means more of it, OK, would he not actually have to bear some responsibility if there is a rise in the far right in Britain?
Well, the problem of the far right, it would be a mistake to ignore that. And intelligence service leaders have said for some years that there are more people on their watch lists from that than from Muslim extremism.
Not more. They said it's the fastest.
That's not true. But what I'd point out is that there are 2 questions here. And one is that Germany, a lot of the people they've taken in have been refugees from Islamic countries with big cultural differences. And I think it'd be a mistake to pretend that those don't exist. We have a problem with, you know, sort of Wahhabi Islam in this country, a more extreme sect. And if we ignore that, then we don't solve anything. But on the flip side, a fifth of workers in this country were not born in the UK. It's more than £80 billion to the UK economy. So when you talk about public services, you have to be honest that immigrants to this country put in 12% more than they take out. So what would the cuts be if you got rid of immigrants?
You know, if we dare to suggest in this country that the upsurge in crime is because of some of the immigrants are coming in, we're shouted down. But Germany now has the proof that particularly with sexual offences and violent offences, that is the case. Stark. And it can't be ignored.
It's stark. And people have a right to be worried about that, especially if some people who've come to this country have passed through Germany.
Women have a right to be worried because culturally they feel very different about women. We all have a right to be worried.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody.